G'day fellow baggers and welcome back to Bluebaggers Edge, and we are here of course to preview the round 24 clash against Essendon and the last hurrah for season 2025 for the Carlton Football Club. And it's been a bit of a lackluster season, as we know. Many words that we could really describe the season as, but now's the chance to end the season on a high off the back of a very, very big and comprehensive, the style of win against Port Adelaide was a big positive, a lot of positives, a lot of takeaways there. If you haven't seen, of course, go and check out our review episode of the Port Adelaide clash. And of course, we are, as I said, here to preview this last encounter against the arch rival in Essendon. And without further ado, let us have a look at the lineups heading into this game. And of course, it is, first up, Tom De Koning, TDK's 100th game, and bit of a double-edged sword here, because we are, of course, celebrating a guy that has come of age and, really served us quite well in recent seasons and reached his potential. But the other side of it is, of course, the realization, and I think, the club has kind of come to terms with the fact that, in all likelihood, he will be leaving in season 2026 to go and play for St Kilda on bulk coin, mind you, which is no real surprise there. So I think there's not really much else to say apart from that. And, we are here, of course. He's reached the 100-game milestone, which means that if he does have children in the future, of course, boy or girl, they will be eligible under the father-son, father-daughter rule for either of our sides. So there's that, I guess, is a bit of a takeaway, but it's a bit of a bittersweet end, you would think, with TDK. And on Footy Classify the other night, Eddie Maguire, in fact, last night, said with quite a bit of confidence, take it to the bank, TDK to St Kilda is done. And I think, there's no real surprise there, given the crazy money that is being thrown his way. As an avid Carlton man, I think about myself, and if I was in his shoes, I still would find it very, very hard to say no to that deal, because he's really setting himself up, his life outside of footy, and it's something you've really got to consider, because especially nowadays in football, your career can be ever so fleeting off the back of, as we know, concussions, which has ended the career prematurely of, a number of players out there, Paddy McCartan being one of those, Murphy from Collingwood as well in recent times. So it's fleeting, and you kind of have to think about your financial well-being first and foremost ahead of, player success and milestones and everything else. So totally understand it from that viewpoint, but it is going to be a bit of a bittersweet end, as I said. But just to see him run out in St Kilda colours next year, it's not going to be the best, but yeah, it is what it is. And I think there's going to be a bit of a flow-on effect with St Kilda, with a fair few guys, and I think Royal Marshall being one of those that will pack things up and head to another club. And I don't blame him off the back of that, because I don't really see TDK and Marshall working in tandem, because Marshall, I think, wants to have that number one ruck mantle, which he won't have with TDK at the Saints. So enough about that. But on the ins and outs front, we have Lucas Camporelli playing his first game, I think, since round 2. I don't know why he hasn't been played in the side throughout the season. I know, he's, you have to use this season as a development year. But I think what he's shown in his first couple of games, he looked really good, showed a bit of speed and, outside, I guess, usage on the wing, which was quite valuable at various stages. So good to see him nonetheless back in the team to round out season 2025. And Will White also makes a return to the team. Really rate Will White. I know it's another, small forward, and we've got around about 5 or 6 playing in this side at the current time, but we want to see what he has to offer. And I want to see him stick around on the list heading forth, because he shows quite a bit. Love his style, and just one of those players that I think might be able to eke out a career. Still, of course, quite a depth player at the moment, but I can see him forging a career long term. Lockie Fogarty goes out through injury, I think, and Cooper Lord, of course, was concussed last round, and unfortunately is unable to be available for the season ender or closer, whatever you want to call it. For the Don side of things, the ends, a big in here, Zach Merritt returning from, I think it was a busted hand that he had and of course, Dylan Shiel as well. And news on Shiel is the fact that he actually has agreed to part ways with Essendon. A bit of a sliding doors moment here and it's quite apt that he's doing it against Carlton. Of course, we were chasing him when he did make himself available in that trade period from the Giants, and we were kind of wrestling with both Essendon and Hawthorn as possible suitors. And at that time, I was actually working at the Carlton Football Club in the media team, heading up the video, team within the media department. And I actually pieced together a recruiting video that the recruiting team pitched to Dylan Shiel, and hopefully it might have been a bit of a saving grace. Maybe he didn't rate my recruiting video. It was virtually just a video of him being spliced in with Carlton Vision, just to show him what it would have been like to play in front of a massive packed MCG and a Carlton crowd that's passionate and chanting, cheering, everything else. But wasn't to be. As it turned out, Dylan Shiel hasn't quite been the player that I'm sure Essendon, were hoping better from. So it has turned out this way for Dylan Shiel, and it'd be quite funny if we pick him up, which I don't think we will. He's kind of at that stage now where injuries have derailed his career a fair bit. Doesn't really have speed, and that, of course, we need. But at the trenches, might be a handy player for another team heading into 2026 and beyond. But outside of that, Sardale Hawley goes out and Ben Hobbs makes way as well. Now, just in terms of matchups, before we go through, of course, the team stats side of things, comparing both teams heading into this game, we have, I think, an Essendon lineup which is it's filled with a lot of youngsters. As we know, they've been absolutely flattened with injuries, much like sort of us in recent seasons, but theirs has just been a different level. And you do have to feel for them, even though they are the arch rival. But you look at the lines, and there's guys here like Newen, a youngster, Blackiston, who was a mid-season draftee. I can't even pronounce his name. Luelman is another one. They've got Liam McMahon, who I'm still spitting chips about the fact that we didn't pick him up, because he's going to be a very handy player for Essendon. And you can probably say this now, he's going to kick a bag on us just to really rub our noses in it. But does annoy me to see him play at the Dons. They've obviously got Isaac Kako. They've got, Menzie. They've got Angus Clark. They've got Reece Unwin as well. And guys there in the emergency list that are quite young as well. So a lot of youth for Essendon's team. Compare it to us, and I know we've got some youngsters in. We've got Flynn Young, who's relatively young, mid-season draftee. We've got the likes of Matt Carroll. We've got Hudson O'Keefe. We've got Ashton Moyer. We've got Lucas Camporelli. We've got Will White, Billy Wilson. So we've got a bit of youth as well by comparison, but they do have some games up their sleeve. Some of those, Lucas is obviously going to play his third game, but yeah, it's going to be a game that I think we're going to be riding the momentum from off the back of the Port Adelaide win. As I said, it was more so the style of the win as opposed just to the, compared to the win itself that really, really, gave me a fair bit of confidence of, what we can expect heading into 2026, the way that we played, the style of play, we're kind of zigzagging, using the fat side and then, transitioning 45-degree kicks through the corridor and moving the ball with a lot of, precision, which is quite, unique for us this season because we've been one of the worst, if not the worst, efficient side in the competition. But variability, I think, and, a lot of smart play in the terms of, moving the ball quickly when we needed to expose the opposition, especially on turnover, but also, being patient, holding the ball when opportunity didn't present and waiting for, opportunities to, crop up in the form of, players on leads and stuff and then hitting them even, 20, 25 meter leads if we needed to kick short just to maintain possession. So really smart football, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come. And it seems to me that it's a change in tactics, style of play from Michael Voss and the assistant coaches, which has been a long time coming. And again, it's come off the back of, Voss having his, career on the line at the Carlton Football Club as head coach, which we saw, in the back part of 2023 against Gold Coast, that second half of that game where we changed things up, used the corridor more, used it with a bit of dash, bit more dare, speed, and just, not having a one-dimensional structure and setup. So that was really good to see by the coaching staff and also the players with their output, obviously, as well. So in terms of what to expect from this game. So the last few encounters was a close, narrow victory back in June 8th, which was round 13. We won by 8 points, 11-12, 78 to 11-4, 70. Of course, inaccuracy really let us down there. 23 scoring shots to 15. Before that, we had a 26-point win, 15-6, 96 to Essendon 9-16, 70. And then even before that, we have Essendon winning back in 2023, 13-8, 86 to Carlton, 6-16, 52. Another inaccurate game there, 22 scoring shots to 21. But fell their way. So now's the time that we go through, of course, the team stats side of things. And we might just quickly go through these and just kind of, any discrepancies, really big discrepancy we'll note. But disposals wise, 370 to 356.1. We'll try that again on average. Outside of that, inside 50s, more in our favour to the tune of 6.2. Disposal efficiency in the favour of the Dons, 73.5% to 70.3%. As I said, we probably are still the worst efficient side or least efficient side of the competition. Efficiency inside 50, no surprise here, but quite low for us. But also the Dons, and we actually out-muscle the Dons in this stat here by 0.3%. Stoppage-wise, hitouts, we actually concede a fair few compared to the Dons. Clearance-wise, we have more clearances compared to the Dons. And possession-wise, contested possessions, we actually average 12% more than the Dons. Uncontested possessions, the Dons average 21 more than us. So it kind of, doesn't average out, but I think there's a little bit of discrepancy on both areas there that both teams could try and exploit. But I think at the contest, if it's a hard-fought contest, that's where the contested possessions really count, obviously. So that is where we kind of hold sway. Turnovers-wise, very similar for both teams. Marking, again, very similar for both teams. Same for marks inside 50 and contested marks in our favour by 1.8. Goals-wise, 9.7 Essendon to Carlton 11.2. So surprising there. We don't actually outmuscle many teams in terms of goals for because we don't rate very well with our, scoring for 2025. But the Dons are actually worse than us. And behinds, we average more behinds, 10.6 to Essendon's 9.4. Defense, tackles in our favour by around about 6 or thereabouts, roughly. Tackles inside 50 in our favour as well. And 1%ers in our favour, which is good to see, to the tune of 5.2. Now, we'll go quickly through Willow ratings, and the prediction by them is Carlton by 17.1 points with a confidence rating of 69.1%. Ding, ding, 69 dinner for two. Ratings-wise, and as I said with the attack, we are pretty bad, negative 6.6 compared to Essendon 15, negative 15.4. Defensively, they're negative 0.8. Whereas we're positive 1.4. So at least that's an area of the ground that we actually don't excel in, but we are, we're okay at. And overall, as you can see there, we're negative 5.2 to Essendon's negative 23.4. And we've actually won 7 of the past 10 games against the Dons. And as you can see here, team stats, as we kind of went through there, a lot of highlights in our favour there, except for handballs, disposals, disposal efficiency, and kicking efficiency, and hitouts, 1 to advantage. Outside of that, contested possession, clearances, marks inside 50, goals, tackles, everything else in our favour. So totally expecting a win here, especially if we're riding the momentum off the back of Port Adelaide. That win and that style of win, again, like I said in that last quarter against the Suns, if we can bottle up that performance, unleash it here yet again, same style, same setup, same intent, passion, everything else, we'll come away with a very big win. In Essendon, what do they have to play for? They have quite a few youngsters that need to prove themselves to try and keep their spot on the list. But outside of that, they're just playing for pride. They've struggled a fair bit. I think they're, if we just go through their recent form, I think they've lost. Gee whiz, they've lost. Well, they lost their past 5 encounters, I know that, and we've won 2 of our past 5. But I think they're on a losing streak of, it would be, I think, close to 10, if I was to guess. Losses in a row. Might be less than that, probably should be less than that. That's just a guess, but I think they're going pretty ordinary at the moment. No surprise, as I said, given the available players they have at the disposal in terms of quality. So that's pretty much it. And I think, where it's going to be won or lost, you just look at the lineups and, we really did a number on Port Adelaide at the contested possessions, and that's where it's going to be, I think, in our favour, as I spoke about with the stats. And I know, like Essendon, they really do dominate the uncontested side of the game, but if we're tight, if we apply the same pressure, we have that really high pressure rating that we had against Port Adelaide from go to woe, we will wipe the floor with Essendon. And that's funny to say because I haven't had confidence in the Carlton side for a long, long while since that win against North Melbourne, mid-year or thereabouts. So outside of that, good to see Lucas getting another crack. As I said, we've got a few youngsters here. Hudson O'Keefe, Ashton Moyer continuing on. Frankie Evans, if he can continue his performance, gee whiz, it's going to be a big smile on my face to see him performing well. I know he's been a butt of my jokes, but, all with love, of course. We want to see guys performing to their peak. And is this an opportunity for him to perhaps end the season with a big note saying that small forward role, that belongs to me, and I'd love to see that. So all the best to you, Frankie Evans. Outside of that, Matty Carroll still getting a crack. Great to see. Sammy Walsh as well, 66% game time, had 28 disposals thereabouts, and had 9 score involvements, the equal most alongside, I think, Harry, or just behind Harry. Of course, Harry kicked 7 goals, so no surprise there. But we want to see Walshy continue that. He played with a sort of freedom that we haven't seen in a long, long while, with confidence in his body as well that we haven't seen in ages. So I want to see that continue, and one of the massive takeaways from last week as well. So Ben Camporelli, unfortunately, doesn't get a crack in season 2025. Does, of course, get named as emergency, so he's awfully close. Would love to see him really springboard from here into the senior team in 2026, but now is the chance for him to really put some time in the gym over the preseason like his brother, and, obviously battled with injury in the preseason as well. So Ben, all the very best to you as well. And Mitch McGovern, the other big notable thing we'll end on, because Mitch McGovern has not been selected, because it means that he hasn't now been triggered. Let me rephrase that. He hasn't been selected, which he needed to play one more game, I think it was, in order to trigger a clause in his contract to automatically renew the contract that he's currently on for another season. Now, I totally don't mind this, because the money that Mitch McGovern's on probably isn't warranted in line with his performances and output. And off the back of this, it means that he's out of contract, and we need to renegotiate a contract with him, which I think is a smart thing to do. He's not been in the best form for a fair while. I know he's kind of unlocked, or rekindled a bit of form playing up forward, which I don't mind. Going just quickly on McGovern, I'd love to see us keep Gov going into 2026 more so as depth, because if we lose Sauce, in all likelihood, we've lost the Hoff as well, for season 2026 through that ACL injury. We need to have players of key position quality that can come in, play a role, and be depth, because we saw in 2024 when we had injuries, it just didn't fly, and we had to rely on the likes of Marchbank and everyone else, and we didn't have that depth there. So I'd love to see us keep him if he wants to stick around. If not, he's not going to be the biggest loss, it must be said. But outside of that, that's it. I think that's all we have to say for this game. Of course, we will be back for the review of this game, and then outside of that, we will turn our attention to the postseason. And of course, over the next week, we will expect, of course, post round 24, there will be changes in the assistant coaching ranks. We will chat about that and go into greater depth analysis of what that may mean. Who do we target, going forth in the back room, in the footy department side of things. So we'll chat about all that and more, but let us know your thoughts down below in terms of this game. What are your expectations? My final prediction here, I want to say Carlton by, 50 plus points, but I'll be conservative. I'll say 34 points, and it will be a very nice way to end what has been a very trying 2025 season. And hopefully that helps us springboard into what we're hoping to be a more successful campaign in 2026. But let us know your thoughts down below. And with it, ladies and gents, don't forget to like, give us a subscribe as well. Really do appreciate all the support. We want to drum up this channel as much as we can. So if you haven't subscribed as yet, please consider doing so, and I will appreciate and thank you in advance for doing just that. But that's it, ladies and gents. Thanks as always for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the review. Go Baggers.